Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's time for a Guardian GoBot review, and as promised last time, we're going to take a look at Defender. Defender would be released in 1985. As you can see, there are two versions of Defender. We have a long-barreled version and a short-barreled version. The long barrel one over here would be the first one released, but it would not stay on the shelves very long and would be replaced with this short barreled version. A lot of the reasoning behind the change is the fact that the long barreled version is a little more difficult to convert into the alternate mode. Plus, it also features some very small pieces on it that were taken out with the short-barreled version. But of course, the long-barreled one was the original toy in Japan, and it included more accessories than what the short-barreled one does, or even what the American-released one does. So, we kind of missed out on a lot of it as this toy evolved. Anyway, we're going to take the short one and set him aside for the moment, and we'll start by looking at the long-barreled toy. Of course, this one I got as an adult collector, so I wasn't aware of it until I became an adult collector. As for articulation, he has quite a bit for a GoBot of his size. We can rotate the arms at the shoulder all the way around. Plus, we do have the ability to move the arm backwards. So he does have quite a range of motion with his arms. You can move his legs back about so far and move them up front. Not quite as far, but he's still got a pretty impressive range of motion for a GoBot of his size. Of course, the articulation will be the same on the small one, on the short-barreled one. Now, to convert Defender into his alternate mode, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take his gun away. We'll look at it later. We're going to take his arms and we push them up into the sides like so, raising them up. Now next, I'm going to grab onto the barrel of his turret. We fold it back so it raises his head up. Then we got to fold it in and try to rest it inside the turret. We raise up the chest a little bit so that we can hold his head into place. Then we can bring the turret up out of the way. And then fold the chest up all the way. And then you will fold the arms underneath the chest, like so. Then down here at his legs, fold his feet in, like so. Then we're going to slide his legs up, like so. Then we rotate them around and snap them into place. And then here we have him in his alternate mode. He's a Saladin Mark II, an armored car of sorts, since he has, as you can see, he has wheels instead of tank treads. Now, the Japanese version of Defender came with a machine gun and an aerial array that would be mounted on the turret here as well. But those pieces were likely deemed too small and were thus removed. However, this one does have opening hatches on the turret. If you zoom in and take a look at those, now, I mean, these can be removed relatively easily as they are thin plastic. I've never done that for this toy, so I'm not going to try to do that. As you can see, those would be part of the problem that would lead to the recall of this toy. Another thing would be these 3 boxes here on the sides. All 3 of them, the covers can be removed. You can see, now it's open. Same with that one. And with that one. So as you can see, you get a fair more action out of it, but you also have considerably more lost pieces. This Defender, you can also rotate the turret, but it doesn't rotate very easily. But it can go all the way around with a little effort. And you can raise the gun barrel. And how does he roll? How well does he roll on his 6 wheels? He rolls very good, actually. Now, of course, to do the conversion on the short-barreled one, it's more or less somewhat the same. But instead, the turret is removable. So you can remove it, get his head in, and get that up, and just set it aside while you go through the motions of everything else that we did with the long-barreled one. And then you pop the turret back on, and there you go. That's all there is to it. And of course, how well does he roll? He rolls very good. But there is something else I also want to point out to you, is the hatches on the side. As you can see, instead of having the opening top, they have opened the sides of those hatches, and for some reason they also took away the plastic here that was on this section down here. You can see here on the long barrel it's filled in. For some reason they hollowed it out on this. It kind of makes the appearance a little ugly or incomplete. I would have preferred they just filled those in and been done with it. But that's just one man's opinion. And as you can see, they did remove the turret covers. They just filled in these things, but they left the hinges. They left the little spots for the hinges in. So it makes the toy look a little more incomplete. And of course, you can rotate the turret all the way around, and the gun can raise up. It's just not as noticeable. Alright, we got 2 separate piles here of loose parts. This pile over here is obviously for the long barrel, and this one is for the short barrel. Both toys include the same gun, which is basically a large, oversized cannon. But it is nicely detailed. And he is one of the few GoBots that does have a gun, instead of having to rely on firing energy bolts from his hands. And unlike the more notorious ones that are easily lost, you're not going to lose this thing very easily. However, on the long barrel, you do have to worry about losing all the covers. And it comes with 2 of this cover. Trying to get it in a way that you can see it very well. Probably should have trimmed my nails last night. Here we go. There's 2 of this container, which is a long rectangular container. And then, of course, lastly, there is the real pain in the butt to find. It will be this one very tiny container, which if we can turn it a little bit, so that you can see it is done up at a bit of an angle. So as you can imagine, these pieces were likely a major source of a recall, hence why the long barrel isn't easy to find. And a short barrel one, it has the same gun. The only difference on this one is that this one has a sticker on it. I happened to find the stickers when I was young for my Defender, and thus I put them on him. So unfortunately I don't have a loose one. I don't have a sticker sheet to show you. But you also have, as was stated earlier, the turret is removable. It doesn't have any of the turret covers that work. And of course underneath it, it does have the head. And there you have it, folks, the loose parts for both versions of Defender. One final note about the long boxes is, while it may not be as easy to tell, one of them that's of the two same design is slightly longer. This one here is about 1 millimeter or so longer than the other one. It's a little hard to capture on camera, but one of them is slightly longer than the other, so there is a difference between the two. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Defender? Defender certainly looks like a character that would live up to his name, as he does come off as a rugged-looking robot. The chests of him are made of die-cast metal, just like Destroyer. The only thing is that he's about a hair's size shorter than Destroyer. So pitting the two of them against each other really isn't probably the best idea. However, for the sake of this video, we will definitely say that Defender is probably something that would function close to a lead soldier or maybe even a bodyguard of sorts for the Guardians. He's got the imposing frame to definitely look like he's tough, and the addition of the extra cannon on his arm is a superb accessory. But the grading comes down to what all do we think of the toys overall. And they're hard to grade since the two of them are radically different from each other. The short-barreled version I had growing up as a child, and until I became an adult collector, it was the only one I knew that existed. I'm going to put him in the middle tier, but he's going to be very close to the top tier. So he certainly earns it without having the extra accessories. And maybe I'm a bit biased, but the only real complaint I have with the short-barreled one is how many of the things were left open on the toy when they replaced it as the de facto standard toy of the character. The openings just make the toy look like it's incomplete, and that I really don't like. Now, the long-barreled version, it's going to go in the middle tier as well, but he's going to go down a little bit further, since the lack of the extra accessories from his Japanese one, while I've never seen them, I do kind of wish we could have had them, but I probably understand why they weren't included. They would have obviously been very, very small pieces, and would likely get lost or swallowed easily. However, that doesn't excuse the fact that he still came with turret covers and box lids that could also just as easily have been swallowed by a child. So, he suffers a little bit more, but it's not really enough to put him in the bottom tier, simply due to the fact that there's not very many copies of the long-barreled Defender available out there. He is rather difficult to find. but not super difficult where he's going to break your bank if you want to find one. So I would definitely recommend, if you're a fan of the GoBots, you definitely want to get a Defender in your ranks, but I would definitely say go with the short-barreled one and you'll be just as happy. At any rate, that concludes my review of the Guardian GoBot Defender. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you like this video, drop me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below and join our ranks. And please ring the notification bell, even though YouTube's notification is broken. But you can always check out the channel's homepage on YouTube to see if I've loaded new content. Also, please consider sharing your thoughts about Defender in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.